Hi everyone, we're back with the next installment of this video series that covers us creating a complete game from scratch, at least on the coding side, or eventing as it's called, in Construct 2. And this is a basic side-scrolling platformer game that we're simultaneously developing for classic Amigas. So the resolution and actual graphics you're seeing us use in the game are the actual Amiga graphics, and will be today we're going to start by and I should say Corey is here with me again to keep the video more lively and to simultaneously learn Construct. So say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, so we are going to, the first thing we're going to do is just a really quick and easy adding of the more finalized art for some of the things that I just quickly created a placeholder for. So the first one to handle is the tree, and so I'm just going to double click that, and good, it's open to the correct folder. And then here is the actual tree I had made, a simple silhouetted tree.
I don't know, I kind of like the old one.
That is true. You do have horrible taste in trees. So, all right, so there's that, and then all right, so
And those, like, on the actual Amiga, those would, like, be made with sprites, right?
right, two 16-color sprites side by side, which is created by adding two 3-color sprites together to make each 16-color sprite. So it basically costs 4 Amiga sprites, and on its best day, the Amiga under the hood, or technically, I shouldn't even say that, on paper, the classic Amiga could only display 8 sprites total. So that's using half of the sprite power, theoretically, of the Amiga. But like I said, or like I mentioned in previous videos, they discovered a trick later on in the life of the classic Amiga where they could trick the sprite hardware to display the same sprite over and over again horizontally, even to the point of covering the entire screen with sprites. And really clever game makers on the Amiga were able to make entire, like, that was the worst thing of classic Amigas. If you wanted parallax scrolling, which in my opinion any side view 16-bit game should have, like, it really irks me to no end when a 16-bit game has no parallax scrolling whatsoever. It feels so flat and so 8-bit. Not that there aren't great 8-bit games, but like once you have that power on the system, it just drives me nuts when it's still, like, you know, kind of like an 8-bit game in that sense. But
yeah, and I think it's just because, you know, if you have that hardware to do it, it's like, it's not really that difficult to create that effect.
Right, and the added
like, as
sense
far as
of
the art goes, so.
And the added sense of depth that just makes it more realistic and immersive, so to speak. It's just more visually appealing. I just think it's always worth doing if there's not massive, if you're not paying a price for the gameplay, then it's definitely worth doing. But anyway, the problem is, on paper, if you wanted layered scrolling on the Amiga, you used what was called dual playfield mode, which then broke up the few bit planes they had to make colors on screen. You had to cut it in half. So suddenly, instead of having up to a 32, or in some cases even a 64 color screen, now you had only 2 layers that were each 7 colors, basically, which is obviously super limiting, which gets way worse because on the Amiga, like, an 8-color background can look great, especially if you use that copper technique we discussed before of making, adding new colors in horizontal lines, like I did here in the sky background and the water and stuff. Like that, like the Amiga thought that was a 2-color image back there, and you just add all these colors with that trick. So 8 colors for a back layer is great. The problem is a 7-color foreground layer is already really limited, and then when you realize there's not enough sprites to go around to make all your enemies and explosions and pickups and the HUD, so you end up with, in most classic Amiga games, especially in the first several years of making games on the Amiga, they would use sprites for the player character, so that would look good. It would be its own 16 colors. And then they'd have maybe enough sprites left for the HUD, but then every enemy, every pickup, all had to share the same 7 colors with the foreground art. So it looked really low color, and the worse, the important items like enemies and pickups, sometimes they hardly stood out from the foreground at all. So like here are these things you either have to really see to grab or really see to avoid, and they don't stick out well. So it's visually unappealing, and the gameplay suffers. Two terrible things for a video game. So, yep. Go
So
ahead.
I would say, yeah, it's very important then to kind of develop that habit or technique. If you're going to do a background sort of like this, like
Right.
using that, that strip of, like changing color going vertically, like is
It's a must
its own
to
sort
get.
of little skill to develop.
That's for
this
sure.
system in particular.
Yeah, it's especially the other. It's just a fantastic added bonus, even if you're not doing that. Like on paper, the way you're technically supposed to do layered scrolling, even if you're not doing it that way, if you can get a bunch of extra colors on screen, and you can do it tastefully, why not do it, right?
Right.
But if you are doing it the way they intended originally, then yeah, you'd pretty much be crazy to not do it, because the game is going to look so much better and more on par with the consoles of the day if you take the time to do things like that. But so the problem was, yeah, you see, you'd end up with this really colorless foreground and enemies and pickups. But later on, they figured out this repeating sprite trick, and you can put sprites either in front of or behind the graphics, like the background graphics. So clever developers started creating a back layer of scrolling that could be 16 color instead of 8. Right? And it was made entirely out of sprites. So then you had your front playfield could be its own full 16 color, which is obviously infinitely better than 7 or near in. Like people think, oh, twice as many colors, it could look twice as good. No, the difference between how colorful and good you can make something with twice as many color indices is way more than twice as good. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to look way more than twice as colorful if you have twice as many color indices to use. But anyway, so the point is, you could have either a 16 color foreground or even a 32 color foreground that shares 16 colors with the background sprites, but also has its own 16. So you could have a really colorful, like a parallax scrolling, like 2-layered scrolling game, much more on par with the Sega Genesis and stuff, or Mega Drive as the rest of the world called it. So anyway, yeah, it's but the thing is, with this particular game, the classic Amiga version is being developed in AMO, so I could not use that repeating sprite trick. So I came up with this other trick. Like I had learned of a few different tricks that other games had used over time, and I had figured out that I can create this sort of translucency effect by setting which, it's very technical stuff, but setting which bit plane to blit when you're drawing an object onto the screen. So what's interesting is, under the hood in the actual Amiga version of this game, the foreground is drawn first before anything else, and then the mountains are slapped on top of everything. But because of the fact that I'm only drawing a very specific bit plane, it's only showing up in that one background color that is the sky color. So even though technically I'm just slapping it on top of the foreground, because of this trick, this hardware trick, it's actually looks like it's behind the foreground.
Okay.
So it's a very clever trick with a very big price, and that's the thing I explained to you earlier, that in the area where the actual blitted image of and it's very small, as you can see, like right here, starting at the clouds, and right here ending at the mid area of the trees. That's the actual size of that blitted object, or drawn in on top of everything. In that particular area of the screen, you can only use the odd numbered color indices. So you can see down here is much more colorful, right? But up here, like, there's more colors in the range of like brown. You can see I can't use the darkest brown to shade the tree here. I can't use the medium tone. I can't use the so there are specific colors that I cannot use in that specific strip. that region of the screen where I want that layered scrolling effect. So that's that's a big price to pay. Like, you have to be either an artist or have an artist that's willing to work within those very strict color limitations. But when you look at it this way, if we had used regular dual playfield mode, we'd only have 7 colors to work with anyway on the entire foreground. But now we've got the layered scrolling, and we have 16 colors for most of the background, most of the foreground, and only 7 colors in a relatively small part of the foreground. So it's still better. And the really important fact is that the other objects that go on top of everything else, like the player character, the enemies, and pickups and all that, they can use the full set of 16 colors, or 15 plus clear. And then on top of that, we still, because we're using this blitter trick, we still technically or theoretically have all the sprites we can use to add additional color. So in this particular game, there's going to be like the attack effect that comes out of the player's gauntlets when he throws a punch. Those can be made out of sprites and therefore introduce new colors. And this foreground tree, as we were discussing earlier, is also made out of sprites, so it can have its own colors separate from those 15 colors of the foreground. So I hope that was remotely interesting to the viewers, since it's super like Amiga specific, but to like hardcore pixel artists like Corey and myself, it's really interesting to learn about these limitations and to see how nice we can make something look and how colorful, to see how well we can hide and or work around these limitations to make a good looking game. But anyway, so let's start getting, okay, so we got the tree in, so that's looking better. And since the previous video, Corey has done a stellar job creating the actual borders that are themed also to the Amiga that we're going to have for this like PC and tablet version of the game. So let's get those in there. So it's a full-size, full-screen image for the sake of simplicity, since we don't need to worry about performance on modern tablets and like Windows computers anywhere near as much as we need to worry about performance on the actual Amiga. We can be very sort of wasteful or sloppy, and it doesn't matter with this. Like, performance will be great even on a weak tablet or phone. So let's see, top left. So here is the base for the Amiga themed frame. So as you can see, Corey did a fantastic job matching the overall aesthetic and color scheme of classic Amiga hardware, especially the A500 crossed with like that fantastic, I can't even remember what it's called. I'm completely losing my Amiga cred right at the moment. But the really classic Amiga monitor, which I could swear it's something like 1080S or something, but I could be completely wrong with that. My fellow Amiga community members that watch this video will be screaming at me, how could you forget such a thing? But anyway, it was a beloved stereo sound CRT monitor that was the desired monitor for probably decades for the Amiga users. But anyway, so yeah, that looks awesome. So now we also need to work in the touch buttons. So let me stay organized here actually and name this to frame frame BG. Sure, why not? That'll work for now. And then so I'm going to start adding other sprites that will be the buttons. And we're probably not going to make the touch buttons work in this particular video, but we will get there. So I'll start with left, right, up, and down first. So we'll do right, and let's see what it did for the collision box. Yeah, needlessly, so it'll guess when you import an image, and it'll create a relatively low poly collision box. And in this case, we want to keep it really simple and give people extra leeway so that when they, if they come close to touching the button, it should function. since there's nothing else that they want to be touching in that area, if that makes sense. So let's see, so right button, okay, and then so same thing, I will just clone this to be slightly quicker than creating it from scratch, and we're going to load that in, fix this collision rectangle. There we go. And of course, like, we can tweak these positions however we feel is best. Like, once we can test it on an actual tablet, we'll be able to keep tweaking the placement of these things. And when someone is not using touch input, I'm going to program this so that those buttons disappear. So don't worry, everyone that plans to play this game not on a tablet. The buttons will just automatically appear if you touch the screen, and they'll automatically disappear if you touch the keyboard, a keyboard key, or an actual control pad direction or button. So the game will seamlessly alright, so let's rename this. The game will seamlessly change out what input method you are using. So left button, clone object type, and we're going to do up. There we go. Let's see what it did here. So it's very likely at some point we're going to want to create some amount of overlap with these buttons, but we don't know. And we might tweak after we I think I know what you were about to say, Corey. Like, the buttons were designed to be in a very specific place originally, and that's how Corey drew them, but we might need to tweak it based on what feels best on a real tablet. So we'll touch up these little bits here that look a little weird right now because I'm just sort of haphazardly placing it. Like, the buttons originally for left and right were going to be much closer together, which might be what we do, but it depends a lot.
It was mimicking sort of some of the controls we had set up for other games, because that was sort of how we had them set up. But you know, maybe the sizes of them need to be fixed or whatever.
So all of this,
I'm not quite sure yet.
Right, exactly. So all of this will be tweaked to you know, like, get the functionality working as best as possible, and then adapt the visuals to look as best as possible. Obviously, functionality, fun and functionality always come first in a video game, and then it's the artist's job to make that look as awesome as possible within those requirements of fun and comfortable gameplay.
Yeah, visually it was sort of like the, you know, like the indentation in the keyboard around the keys. That was sort of the idea of that stroke. It looks, but it looks at the same time, it's like, it can be removed. I tried it with just the floating buttons without that, and it looked okay, but it was also a little like, I don't know, it sort of needed that to look better on the lighter background or something. But anyway.
Yep. But like I said, like, we'll figure out what's really comfortable for play, and then we'll adapt the buttons, like, sizes and, like, their framing, however is necessary. But as you can see, everyone, I think you'll agree, especially fellow Amiga people, this, like, I was giddy when I first saw his the way he designed the frame treatment. Just looks really fantastic. So let's get the push buttons in. So let's rename this to up button, and then finally, let's see, well, we've got at least 2 buttons to add, so I don't remember in the mock-up, is B on the lower left? Corey? Yeah. Alright, so we'll just leave it like that for now, and then clone this. Rename this to B button, and this will be A button. It is indeed A button. Tish. A button. Okay. So it'll probably be something like this, and then there's also power buttons and LEDs, which will be animated and you can interact with, but I don't think I saved those out yet. Let me see. I think I did the escape button, but I'm not even sure of that. Excuse me. Let's see. Yeah, no, I did not yet, so we'll just leave it at that for now. And the other thing, oops, delete, I'll just undo. There we go. Save my progress. And for the heck of it, let's just see how it's looking now really quickly with the see how it's looking with the frame, and yeah, that looks awesome with the frame and the buttons. Oh, it's still only working with the keyboard. I forgot about that. Awesome. Ouch. So that just reminds me, the bat is the next bit of graphics we'll get in. Oh yeah, I didn't hide that yet. That's the spawner from the previous video of the bats that come from the other direction. So that's looking great. Fantastic job again, once again, Corey. That looks like perfect.
Thanks.
Really triggers the proper nostalgia, fuzzy feelings. So, all right. So now we are going to, the bat. Let's go to the spriter layer, or layout, I mean. And then, so we're going to replace this animation, import frames from sprite strip. And we have the clean version of the bat, which is 4 by 1. Replace existing. Okay, and then we need to flip these back the other way. Okay, and because they came from a strip, now the placement of the frames are the same. So if I perfect the hitbox for one of the frames, then it should be fine for all of them. Even though I think this particular character has like vertical up and down movement a little bit built into the animation. So it won't be perfect, but for gameplay's sake, I think it'll be fine. Alright, so right click, apply to whole animation. So now we've got that same box across the whole thing, which looks fine to me.
Yeah,
so we're going to close that and save the progress, and then let's see, so back here. So let's do something a little bit fun now that we have some of the buttons in, even though we can't interact with them yet. I am going to show the other awesome, the variant. There are 2 skins that people will be able to choose and toggle between, both Amiga themed. The other one is actually going to be Amiga CD32 themed. Okay, I'm back after doing a little bit of research, and I figured out the best way to do this. So, as I mentioned, we're going to do skin variations, or 2 of them specifically. And I did misspeak before Corey pointed this out. I accidentally said CD32. As you'll soon see, it's actually based on the CD TV. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a second frame to all of these items that is going to have the second version. And here is the background. Let me make sure the origin point is at top left again. Where's quick sign? Here it is, top left. And the really important thing now that I've done this, I have to go to the animation, and really important, where it says speed, we have to set that to 0. Because if it's not set to 0, it'll display the first frame really quickly, and then it'll be stuck on this frame. So we need speed to be 0 so it doesn't play the animation, but we still have access to telling it to display specific frames whenever we want to. So that's why we're doing that. So there we go. And we can even, just to show a preview for everybody, we can initial frame, we can literally set that right here. Initial frame 1. So we get this really cool CD TV, not CD32 layout, and we've got button images to go along with it. So I'm going to quickly add the button variants for the CD TV skin as well. So again, we're just adding a new frame, loading it in. So this is the up arrow, so that's here. And I'll worry about the collision shapes later. For the sake of speed, oops, I need to make sure I set the speed to 0. And close that. And then for now, we'll just switch this to 1. And then, so the other potentially tricky thing is the positions of the input might need to change based on which skin it is, like slightly. But that'll be really easy to code. I'll just have this little thing that says, if it's in this skin mode, or if it's been switched to the skin mode, then take this up arrow and move it down, and the down arrow and move it up a little bit manually. So that's no big deal. All right. So next, this is the left. So we're going to add the frame, and let's see here. That would be this one, and speed is 0. And then we'll make this one as well.
Yeah, I was attempting, when I was doing the art, to design them in such a way where they could technically take up like the same exact positions,
right,
and it still
right.
kind of worked. I mean, because the D-pad Plus kind of needed to have that perfect shape.
Yeah, exactly.
But and it was mostly a matter of, you would have to sort of like extend the
right.
up and down buttons.
Gotcha.
Of the D-pad, as far as the touch controls go,
right.
a little bit, because they were significantly shorter, but.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, I could easily do that too.
So, and that's the thing. Like, if you switch skins, I don't know if we want people to have to put their, fingers in different spots, necessarily. Right. So, I think with a massive amount of adjustment, like, we can get it very close.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I can just sort of trim the images of some of the keys so that. Or potentially even just change the pivot point of them so that they don't need to be moved at all. So it works well in either case. So that's a good point. I'll probably do that at a later date. For now, I just want to get the art in and start to get the sort of foundation for the code for all this. Like I'll get the skin swapping working just with the key press for now. Let's see, what am I doing? Oh yeah, so let me see if I saved out that little thing. I might not have. The little central thing in the case of the CD TV skin, yeah, I did not. So let me quickly go back into promotion, open this folder, and load up the actual layered HUD. Let's see if that works. Yep. And so there's this like plastic X or I assume it's plastic, maybe it's rubber.
Yeah, it looked like a shiny plastic, but I wasn't quite sure from the photo. Yeah,
exactly. There are some harder rubbers that are harder types of rubber, shall we say?
Yeah.
There we go. And then there we go. And then we need the background to be transparent.
And the little middle piece, like, I debated on whether I even wanted to put it there or not, but I was like, well, it is kind of like a defining
it
feature
helps
of that particular D-pad. So
it helps the skin feel even more authentic and therefore more nostalgic. So it's definitely worth it. Double click, transparent color. There we go. All right, just trying to make sure that it will save with the transparent background. And brush, save brush, and CD TV center X. There we go.
They definitely put a lot of thought into the naming of that system.
Well, CDTV, yes. Well, it's short and it kind of explains what it's all about, so
That's
it
true,
definitely
that's
works.
true.
So, and then we're going to have to change the Z order of this. So there's a real handy, click on View tab up here, the View tab, and then check Z order bar. And then you can just literally grab and drag down the thing you need to move. Look at that. Look how spiffy that is. That looks awesome. Again, excellent job, Corey. Very exciting stuff. And then we've got the B and A buttons as well. I hope the Amiga people are getting excited, even for this version of the game, which doesn't run on a classic Amiga. It's definitely, within the game itself, we're definitely going to mention that that it's based around, it's using Amiga, classic Amiga graphics, and that we're working on an Amiga, actual Amiga version of the game. So, add frame. Let's see. Like, that'll probably be in the credits or about or whatever, something like that. Let's see, where am I here? So this is the B. And I think, maybe I just didn't look carefully, but I think you may not have created the pressed versions of these yet, but I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think not for these darker buttons. Yeah.
Right. They're already so dark. It's just gonna, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah. Well, I think I did it for the escape key, which was the same color, and it did kind of work.
Like, it'll work.
It looked like it was,
The fact of the B and the highlights getting darker will definitely do the trick.
Yeah.
And it's okay if it's subtle. It's just a tiny bit of visual feedback. And theoretically, if you're touching it, your thumb's covering it anyway. You know what I mean? So it's, or finger, it's not a big deal. Like, even if it's not like really obvious visually.
Yeah.
So, add frame.
Yeah, just as long as it's enough.
Yeah, exactly.
To be noticeable, exactly.
Right. So that's all set, and then so let's see how this all looks in this skin mode, and then I'm going to quickly program the actual ability to swap between the two different skins. So there's this. Ow! I keep forgetting what key I have currently mapped to the A for attack. How is that hard to remember? It's because usually I make it Z and X for the attack and jump button for keyboard controls. But anyway, that looks awesome. So let's move on to, we're going to go into the events. And I'm going to add a global value or global variable, and we're going to make this, to make it super readable, even though there's only two things, I'm going to make it text, and then which skin is going to be initial value A500, excuse me, and click OK. So what we're going to do is, I am making things a little harder on myself in this regard. So yeah, in fact, edit, can I switch it to, yes I can, switch it to number, and we're gonna make it 1 is, you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. Which skin, number 1, we'll make 1 Amiga 500 and -1 the CDTV. So now we are going to, I'll make a group. Oops, I just docked the Z order bar. Alright, so add group, swap skins, or we'll just make it skin stuff. Alright, so in skin stuff we are going we are oh, I forgot one thing. We need to add, this is a really cool feature of Construct, is that you can add things to families. So we are going to create in here, we're going to create a family, add family, and we're going to just add all the stuff. So that. Did I get everything? Oh, the border itself. I think that's everything. We'll certainly see if I missed anything. So there's all that. So that's all in a family. Wasn't that a TV show? I'm kidding.
I think so.
All in the family. All right. So alrighty. So now we can go in here and we can say, for now we'll just do something fairly arbitrary, like I'll use the 0 key for now for no good reason. So on key pressed 0, and I am going to I tend to do this in most of my games. I don't know if there's a better way, but I'm going to add another variable called wait. And this is to sort of give a cool-off period for a touch input or another kind of input. So, like, you can't just hold it down, and the same thing will happen over and over again. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That might not be necessary since I'm doing it on a key press, but the real code eventually, there's probably going to be a little icon you can touch to swap skins. So in that case, it might end up necessary. So just to be safe, I'm going to add this wait thing, and it's going to be a number, and it's going to default to 0. So now we're going to do a thing that says on keyboard 0 pressed, and add another condition, and we're going to check if wait is 0. Wait is 0. And now we're going to multiply that value, set value, which skin. We're going to set it to itself, which is which skin, times -1. So if, is that correct? Yeah. So if it's 1, it'll become -1. If it's -1, it'll become +1. So that's a simple way to toggle something. There might be an even simpler way in Construct. I just can't think of it right now, or don't know about it. So that'll toggle it, and then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to set wait to some number, like for instance 5. Set wait to 5. And then we just need another event that says every so many seconds, every X seconds, and we're going to make that like something very small, like a like a 20th of a second or something like that. And then we're going to compare wait, and we're going to say is wait greater than 0. Then we're going to subtract 1 from wait. So it's just a little tiny countdown, very fast countdown timer that makes wait, like you make wait not 0, and the game automatically cools it back off to being 0 very quickly. But that way you can't just like hold down on a button and it'll just keep looping through whatever that thing is, like instantaneously. Because all right, so I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so wait, we're going to subtract from wait 1. We're back. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make, just to be slightly optimized, I'm going to add the function plugin, and that's going to allow us to call functions. So now what I can do is we can make it very specifically only update certain things, or only perform certain lines of code or events only if they've been called to, instead of having it like always check, oh, do I need to do this thing, by checking variables or whatever. You can literally just have it as a function call. So so now what we're going to do is we're going to choose the function plugin, and we're going to call a function, and that function will be swap skin. That sounds weird. Swap skin. All right, so
yeah.
All right, so we're calling the function swap skin, and then so we can add on function swap skin. Make sure I spelled it exactly the same. Swap skin, no space, all caps for both words. That's good. All right, so unfunction swap skin, and we're going to do that variable thing. And actually, let's create a sub event, add sub event, and we're going to check the global value. Yeah, we'll do it this way. So compare value, which skin equals -1. -1 will be the CDTV, right, skin. So we're going to choose that family we created, which is family 1. I need to rename that, remind me later. And we're going to set its frame to 1 as opposed to 0, and then we're going to do the same thing for +1. And we're going to change the frame to 0. Now the only problem is currently, which isn't a big problem, but the first time we press the 0 key, nothing's going to happen because it's already set to frame 1. So I'm going to have to press it twice for us to see the effect. So,
Okay.
But eventually I'll change it back to having its default as the Amiga 500. So there it is. I press it once, it does nothing. Oh, nope, something's not right. Okay, hold on. So let's see. Oh, on key code pressed. That was supposed to be key pressed. That's the problem. Like that's asking for like the special. I forget if it's like a hex number or something. ASCII code, I think. Whatever the code is that represents a key instead of the actual key. So replace condition. On key pressed. There we go. And we're going to do the 0 key. And eventually we'll add a little icon you can touch to switch the skins.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that's something I didn't actually think about.
Yeah, I didn't say that we needed one, so like, and we could even make it so it's like just it appears when you pause the game, so it would just be like one of the things that appear in the pause menu, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 0 key does nothing, 0 key swaps it. There we go. Look at that. So obviously we have this issue where, you know what I mean? Like I just need to move the hotspots of the images so that doesn't happen. But excellent. And as you can see, if I press the key too quickly, it doesn't respond to the second press. I think because I'm doing on key pressed instead of which key is down, like I said, I could get away with not using wait at all. But at the very least, I'm going to speed this up. I'm going to make it twice as fast. But because we're going to do the touch stuff, I might need it. Then again, I think everything has there's an on-object touched, which is different than is object being touched. So actually for now, I'm going to keep the wait for other stuff. It'll probably be handy for other things. But for now, I won't use it. And the functionality should stay the same. I'm just going to double check that right now and make sure it doesn't just instantaneously loop back on itself. No, yeah, it's working great. Okay. Excellent. Cool. And now I can go as fast as I want.
Oh, no.
Sorry, everyone. I should have warned you. All right. So, all right. So we got that working. So as you could see, that family thing is really handy. I said family, right? I may have accidentally said frame. I don't remember what sound just came out of my mouth. But families is really handy, and I did need to rename that family. So, family 1, rename to skin. There you go, skin. Skin sprites. There we go. All right, it's good to stay organized as you go, because otherwise you end up with a mess that takes a really long time to clean up and get organized. Oh, here's the cool stuff, the thing we're going to do next. Speaking of updating graphics and functionality, is we are going to update the HUD to actually have, I'll place these, I don't need to, that's fine, I'll do it right now. I updated the HUD image to represent the empty health bars, and the the score, I think, is now completely black. I think so, like where the bitmap font will be. And I did make the bitmap font, so we'll be replacing these text things with the actual functioning health meter, which will certainly bring it much closer to a finished feeling game. So sprite, and this is kind of cool. We're going to do it in with one single sprite. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So import frames from files, and we are going to find the little hit point boxes that are color coded from green to blue, and we're going to delete this, and then we're going to carefully position them. And typically it's easier to position them if the origin point is top left, and then apply to whole animation. And then for this we definitely want speed of 0 as well. Alright, so here we have the first one, and I'm going to have to eventually type to make these pixel perfect coordinates, but in fact, good point. Can I do a grid of 1 pixel by 1 pixel? I've never done it. Like, that would be super handy for pixel art mode. That,
Yeah,
oh, oops, the height didn't take effect for some reason, but nice. Okay, so hold on. I think though it would, oh no, it's doing it, so that's great. Okay, so is it this that's not quite perfect, or just the preview? Oh no, it's great. Okay, so now I don't have to deal with any annoying decimals. So I've never done that before. I'm going to have to start using this trick for Cyberjack development as well. All right, so frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. Oh, this is going to be cool. Yeah, I look forward to this. Okay, so now we have these sprites, and it's all one sprite, or one type of sprite, I guess you would call it. And we'll call this health box. And the cool thing is we can actually use its frame number that it's displaying to control which one it is. So this is going to be pretty cool. Let me get all of this stuff where it belongs, tucked into the skin stuff group. And update HUD, I already have something here. What do I have here? Every tick. Yep, so this is going to go away pretty soon. Like, this is the placeholder stuff. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is we're going to, now that we added functions, we're going to add a new event above, and we're going to do onFunction call, or onFunction, I should say, and update health. So if that happens, then we're going to do this fun thing where we're going to say, add, let's see, another condition, and this is going to be, we're going to do a for each object loop. So for each health box, so for each of those sprites that exist, right, and we're going to compare its frame. Compare frame is less than, and that would be the number of actual hit points in the value, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is that the frames start at number 0. And hit points, it does not display a hit point if you have 0 hit points, right? Like, they're all supposed to be gone.
Yeah.
So, actually, that might work. Let's just try it this way right now. Less than hit points. Then we're going to make it invisible. Set visible to invisible. And then we're also going to do, actually, I'm going to break this into sub-events. Add sub-event, oops, I'm going to add a blank sub-event, which is handy sometimes. Add blank sub-event, and now I can just drag stuff in. So it's very handy. right? So I can do that. In fact, I'm going to add another blank sub-event. You can do like, is that called nested or sort of hierarchical sub-events, which is really cool. Hierarchical? Hierarchical, which one is it?
Hierarchical.
Yeah, hierarchical, okay.
I don't know.
All right. Some linguist is shouting at us right now. All right, so what was I doing? Yeah. Oh, okay. So add add blank sub event, and we are doing. So the for each is going to be on its own. There we go. So if this function is called, for each of these, do these following checks, and if these checks are true, do this thing. So, and this is going to be greater or equal to hit points. Then we want to set visibility to visible. So, I'm going to save the progress. Going to run the layout. Going to get hit and see what happens. So they should all start visible. There we go. That's fine. And then I get hit. Oh, it did not disappear. Let's see if it disappears when I get hit a second time. Nope. What's going on? I did something. Oh, I never called a function. What a dummy. I made the function, but I never called the function. So now in get hurt, what we're going to do is if you ever get hurt, you call that function. Call function, update health. This way you don't have something looping every time for no reason. Like you specifically say, like at the end of any code that says, yes, the player got hurt, then you update his health meter. So you're not wasting checks on every loop. Like it's just a way to be a little more optimized. Though, like I said, for a game this simple, there's really no need. Like graphically and logistically, this game is simple enough. Even on a weak, very weak phone or something, it should perform perfectly fine. So anyway, call update health. Is that exactly the name I used? Yep, it looks it. Okay. So very often, everybody, if you're eventing or programming something and the logic isn't working, very often it's not the logic that's the problem. It's the it's that you forgot a basic step. It's kind of like that. Well, it's sort of working, but as you can see, I've got something wrong with the actual logic now, it would seem. Interesting. So let's look at it. That was weird behavior, not what I expected. So animation frame is less than the number of hit points. Set invisible. Animation frame is greater than or equal to hit points. So let's see, hit points start, I assume, at 4. Hit points do indeed start at 4, so you want them all visible. So at the okay, so it's if it's greater than hit points that they should disappear. I'm doing this backwards. What a dummy. Oh, that's spawn bat. That's not what I want. It's the get. Where is it? Right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Yeah, I'm being a doofus. So greater than, and then this should be less or equal. That was dumb. Please forgive me, all viewers. I'm not actually this dumb usually, but usually when we're making these videos, one or both of us are kind of tired. It's well past midnight where I am. All right. Oh, I was supposed to get hit, not hit him, but we'll see. Oops.
You're just playing the game appropriately.
Darn it. I have to get. I think I have the thing. I think I know what's causing this. I just need to get hit twice to validate it. I can't. He's too fast for me to get hit twice by him. Nope. What is wrong now?
Well, are you sure you actually got hit that second time though? Is it because the frame numbers start with 0? Is that the way it works?
No, it certainly shouldn't be, because health points will work its way down to 0. So what am I doing wrong here? So hit point starts at 4. They should all be visible. So if, oh wait a minute, if the frame is greater than the hit points. Yeah, no, it should be invisible. Its frame is greater than. So the hit points are 3, but it's frame number 4. Oh, well, yeah, we are dealing with that offset of 0. At the very least, that's a problem. But it should only be a problem for the first hit. That's why I thought getting hit twice would at least make the fourth block disappear. So in that case, we need to do something like this. If it's greater than hit points is it -1 or +1 I need to do? I can't think at the moment.
Is hit points?
That's the variable. It starts at 4 for full.
Yeah,
full
it would
health.
be -1, I think. Yeah, for the if the frames start at 0. Yeah.
Let's get hit.
Should be.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
So let's see if the second hit. There we go. Beautiful.
Okay.
All right. That took way longer and was way more confusing than it should have, but we got it working. All right. Sometimes it's costly to try to be clever and elegant. Like usually I would have used a variable in the sprite. So right here I would have created an instance variable that said which one, and that way it would have perfectly correlated to the hit points, and then I just would have said if that variable is, it would have been the same sort of logic, but it would have been using a variable instead of a frame, and therefore there wouldn't be that mismatch where frame 0 is the same as having 1 hit point. Like that weirdness wouldn't be an issue anymore, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
all right, so we got that done. So we can remove this text HP, and we need to delete it from the project as well. Oh yeah, and before I did say that I was going to get rid of these things that the project automatically created at the beginning, which is this and this. Oh, that's right. We can get rid of all of these tiled backgrounds too. We don't need them anymore. We have your beautiful actual border stuff to use. So tidying things up, and let's get this score working. So now we're going to use oops, I need to make sure I'm on the right layer. We want that in the yes, on the HUD. So I'm going to double click, and I'm going to choose this. This is an old version of a sprite font plugin that is not the official one. You want to use this one. If you have, most people won't have ever seen this one though, and it won't be installed, so it's only an issue for me. But this is the correct one I'm supposed to be using. So the cool thing is you can create any bitmap you want that matches the style of your game, and that in this case only has the numbers you need for scores. So once you do that, you have to tell it how big each character is. So I'm pretty sure it's 8 by 10, and then you have to tell it its character set 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the text we will set that to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and we will gonna add one more 0, I think. Yep. Okay, and we're going to delete that too in a second. And let's see if this is actually in the right coordinate based on how it looks visually in the editor, unlike the yep, look at that, perfect, pixel perfect. That's nice. Better. So now all we have to do, we're going to get a little fancier, and I don't know if I'm going to do it in this video, because I might fumble even worse than I fumbled along trying to get the HUD to work properly. But eventually, like when you get a score of 10, it should be 0, 0, 0, 0, 10, right? To keep the size of the score always the same, so it's not jarring when the score changes. So I'll see if I can remember how to do that, but if not, I'll save it for another time, and we'll move on to sort of more fun things to do. So now we're going to create a function called update score. So add sub event. That should just add something in there. Let's say so. Function on function update score. And so now we're going to simply set the sprite font. Where is it? Oh yeah, it uses the image as the thumbnail. So sprite font set text or something like that. It's set text to, we need to convert a number to a string. So we put str and then we put the value in parentheses, and in this case the value is retrieving the value of the score. So now it will work. Well, I need to call that function, just like I forgot how to call the function with the health and was wondering why it wasn't working. So now we need to call that function specifically when you destroy an enemy. So where is kill enemies? Here you go. So whenever you kill one of the bats, we simply need to blow it up and call a function that says update score. And now that will work, but I think it's going to be all blank and then the score of like 10 or whatever. So let's see, let's run it and see what happens. Oops, I forgot. Yep. So yeah, that's very jarring, but it works. All right. While I'm at it, I'm just going to really quickly delete that old text score, so it's not lying around causing confusion. All right, I am back. So we are going to this number thing so that it always shows 6 digits. Let's see how many tries it takes me to figure this out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find that event by typing in sprite font to get back to this, isolate this particular event, which is very useful. So right now it's just very straightforward, but it cannot stay this straightforward. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to create a blank sub event, and then we're going to do a comparison to see. So I'm going to work my way through the logic, and I'm going to get it to work first, but it won't be optimal, and then later on I might figure out a way to do it in a more optimal fashion. But right now I just have to figure out all the logic first. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare two values, and we are going to compare the one cool thing is you can go in here and under, I think under string, let's see, or text, you can see this, get the number of characters in a string, in a text string. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do the length of string, and then what the funny thing is we need to convert a value to a string. So in this parentheses we're going to do str and then parentheses in there, and then we're going to retrieve no, not hit points. I did that before too. So this should be score. So if the length of the score in number of characters is less than 6, because it's a 6-digit score, I think, right? So if it is, then we're going to have to basically do like a loop. All right, so let me think here. So, and the other thing, I'm going to also create add a variable. This variable is specific to this group. So this is going to be final score text, and its initial value will be, it's going to be a text, and its initial value is going to be blank. That should be fine. And I'm going to put that, oh, that did make it global. That's weird. Okay, I dragged it into a group, so that made it local. That's interesting. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're also, on the beginning of this, we're going to set the score text. So set value final score text to blank. I think I need to put it in parentheses in this case. So that's basically nothing. Clear it out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so now what we need to do is say, if the length of the score is less than 6 digits, then we're going to do a loop. So we're going to do, there is a way to do loops here. Let me see. Let's see.
Is that...
Go ahead.
Sorry. Do you have greater than there? Like greater than 6?
Oh, I do. Good point. Sorry. Thanks for noticing that. Less than. Thank you. All right. So how do we do this loop? I haven't had to do this particular sort of thing in a long time. So let's see. General. Yeah, no, I think it's supposed to be in here. Add another condition. Ah, okay. Repeat for. Okay. So for score.
And 7 years ago.
Nice. Start index 1 is fine. End index is. We need to know what the remainder was of that check. So we're going to do, yeah, this is complicated, but we're going to do, again, the length. Let's see. So it's going to be 6 minus, yeah, 6 minus, and then the length. What is it? Len? Yeah, len str. Score. I always want to do hit points. It's because the word points is in there, I think. So 6 minus that. So I think that's right. So what we're going to be doing is front loading zeros to the string that is the full score that always has 6 characters. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to do. So we're going to do this loop. And then we're going to add a 0 to the text. So we're just going to do, to that value, I'm sorry. So we're going to set value of final score text to final score text plus, and then the character 0. So final score text, I think I need the @ symbol. I think that's how it works in construct, or and I meant, and then a 0 character. So the logic so far is, if it's not 6 digits itself, then we're going to do a loop for however many we're missing to be 6 digits, and we're going to front load it with zeros. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So once this is done, then we need to add a blank sub-event. Let's see, add a blank sub-event, and I think it can actually be outside of that. And then we're going to set the text. Yep, so we're setting this value to blank. Then we're doing this check to add any zeros to the front that we need. And then once those are added, we need to set this not directly to the score, but to that value, and then the string version of the score. So I think this all makes sense, and I think it's pretty nicely optimized. But let's see how royally I messed this up. Let's see what happens when I actually run it. So it should show up as 6 zeros. If I'm really lucky, if I got it all right, it should show up. Ooh. So now I have to remember what is the attack button. And oops, get him. There we go. 10. Look at that.
Yep. Very
First
nice.
shot, I'm amazed I pulled. Given my level of fatigue and how badly I messed up the simple hit points thing, I am amazed I got that right in the first try. So yeah, so score and HUD are working, and the new art is in and is looking awesome. We can swap skins. There we go. I did want to bring it back to the Amiga one by default, the Amiga 500 style one, I mean. So we're going to save progress, and then let's see, let's bring all these back to a default frame of 0. Actually, I should be able to multi-select all of these. Oh, and I'm also going to be a little bit clever here with this, and we're going to add a frame, and then we're going to swap position. So when it's regular Amiga, you don't need this at all. So it'll be invisible.
So it'll just be empty. Nice.
And then we need to put this to 0, and then the only other thing we need to do is make sure that's in a group, which I think was already in the group. So I think we're fine. I think I remember to put it in the group. I'll double check. But if it's visible in the A500 mode after swapping back and forth, then we'll know why I didn't put it in that. It's not called a group, it's called a family, sorry.
Right.
And then, sweet. So now it'll default to that. Let's see, I'll just quickly run it and we'll see if it disappears the way, or appears the way it's supposed to and disappears the way it's supposed to. I did click run. Where is it? Sometimes it, for some reason, doesn't maximize. Okay, here it is. Yeah, it disappears. So it is indeed in the family.
Nice.
Fantastic. Look at that. Working HUD, working score, enemies. So now, the last thing we'll do for this video, since it's getting kind of long, is we are going to make it so that there's going to be a move. Right now I'm just going to make it work with a separate key press, but eventually it'll be its own. In fact, no, I can do it. We're just going to do up and the jump button. So I'll do that. It'll work that way with the keyboard too. So just like in that black belt game, well, in the black belt game you would duck and then press up to jump, and let's see. Yeah, I'll have to double check the way it is right now, but we'll make it so you can somehow do your super jump, and I'll make it so randomly a health pickup flies across the top of the screen, and if you time it carefully you can grab it, and if you grab it you'll get back one of these health blocks in your health meter. And to help make that easier to test, we are going to populate the level with more bad guys. So let's just quickly grab this, and the whole point of this is you can have them come at specific places, like height-wise, and from either direction. Right, so we can really choreograph when these appear and how. All right, that's going to be pretty crazy amount of them, but okay.
I think I'm gonna start calling all of the art that I create choreographs. So
nice, very nice.
Works.
It definitely does. Let's see. Make all of those finally. Oh, they are invisible. I thought. Oh, it's these that are not. It's the front-facing ones. I forgot.
Would it? Oh, and you have to do that individually, and like it won't apply it to all.
You can multi-select. I could actually have gone in here, but there's not that many of them. But if you go in here and you click on any of these things, it'll automatically select all of them in the current frame, or it's called a current layout in Construct. Sorry. All right, so now I've got all of those in there. Yeah. Oh, definitely. There's also, if you click on the Objects tab, this filters it down. It's only objects that are currently in this layout you have selected. So that can make it way easier, because eventually we're going to have things that are only in specific levels.
Right.
And it can be kind of time-consuming to hunt for it in this giant list of stuff. So this Objects tab, it's only the stuff that's actually in the layout. So cool. and it works. Otherwise, it works the same, I think. So yeah, it multi-selects the thing that you click, and that way you can change its properties across the board, which is handy. So All right, I've got that in there. We need a new sprite, and I am going to follow the sort of logic that I've established by adding all of the sprites here.
Mm-hmm.
And let me think. Yeah, so I'm just going to create a new one from scratch. And right now it's just one placeholder frame of art I made. It'll eventually probably be 2 or 3 frames, just to look a little more lively. And we're going to give it, what kind of behavior do you think I'm going to give it, since I want it to fly across the screen in a straight line?
Bullets.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, no gravity, and we do not want it to rotate the image based on the angle of movement. And speed, we do want it to be quite fast. 400 is probably overkill, but we'll try like 300 for now. And then, let me think.
300 miles per hour?
Yes, and that's relative to screen size. So, no, I'm kidding. That's in pixels per second.
Okay, cool.
Gravity, blah, blah, blah. That's all good. So we just do, okay, so that's a good one. In Black Belt, they always come from the right-hand side of the screen, but we could design it so that under given circumstances, or depending on the power-up, maybe we could make some fly in from left to right instead.
Mm-hmm.
That can make things a little more frantic and keep it more lively. All right, so we've got all of the things we need. Let me name this to health pickup, although it's more of a catch than a pickup. All right, so there's that, and have to, oh, wrong event sheet. We need gameplay events. Clear this filter, and I will make a new group called grab stuff. Grab, does that say grab stiff? That doesn't sound appropriate for YouTube. All right, grabbing stuff. Nice typos. I'm grabbing stuff. All right, so now we are, oh, this doesn't need to be open anymore. We're going to add an event, and it is going to be, for now we're just going to make it random. Okay, so we're going to do every so many seconds, and we'll just do every 1 second. And we're going to do another interesting thing that's going to check if one of them already exists. So we're going to do health pickup. There should be something called count, I think. Oh, it might not be in here, actually. Okay, I might need to go back, and in here, is it here? Compare to values, and where is the little heart? There it is. And count, there we go. So that's how you access that. So that's the number of them, and we only want to spawn one if no other ones exist at that moment. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to compare two other values, and we're going to say, if you look under here under math, probably there's should be a way to generate a random, it's probably RND or something like that. Maybe it's under system or value. Hold on. Time values. Random. Here we go. So it's, you type in the whole word random and then parentheses, and then you can create a range, right? So we're going to do random 2 is less than 1. All right. So it won't, like, it's not going to come out every second. It'll be a little something more like every other second if no other one exists. So now we are going to spawn. So we're going to create an object, create object, and we want it on the layer relative to the layer FG, and its X coordinate, we want the right edge of the screen plus, like, let's say it's 32 pixels wide, so it needs to be, oh, that's right, we have the frame though, so we don't need to do the plus thing. Remember, the border is 54 pixels.
Oh, right, yeah.
So on either side. So we're going to do system, and then it's up here, viewport right, and we're actually going to do layer in quotes FG. But because of that, we can subtract like 20 actually 30 something. We'll just do 36. That way there won't be a delay, as big of a delay. Like it'll be just outside the visible edge of the screen when it appears. And right, let's just say something like, I don't know, there's the border, the HUD, so we'll just guess and do something like 46 pixels down. Oops, and we have to pick what object to create, of course. And now what's really important is, and eventually in the real gameplay, you'll earn these, like building up your score to certain amounts will make these things appear most likely. Like there'll be different power-ups and health, but right now it's just at random, just for the sake of getting it to mostly function, and then we go back and tweak the code or alter the code to suit the real gameplay once we get it mostly working. So we need to change its angle of motion to 180. And I'm going to quickly, so they're spawning it, and then we need the collision. So if this on collision with another object, and we're going to use, oh, that's interesting. We could use this, or we can use the hero's actual collision box, which will be more accurate. This one here, so we'll use that. So if that collides, then we want to destroy this, and of course eventually we'll add a nice visual effect and we'll make a sound play. But for now it'll just disappear, and most importantly we are going to add one. Actually we'll set the value to hit points. We'll set the value of hit points to, we're gonna, I forget what it's called. We're going to basically clamp the value so it can't go higher than the 4. Like you shouldn't be able to get 5 hit points, you know what I mean? Because there's no visual representation of it. So clamp, yeah. So return X between two numbers, else the upper or lower bound. I think that's the one we want. So clamp, so the first value, X, is hit points plus 1, right? So that's what we want it to be, hit points plus 1, but it always has to be at least 0 and at most 4. Does that make sense? So that way we can't end up with something like 5 hit points. Alright, and then the other thing we need to do is call that function, which was called update hit points, I think. Update, or was it update health? I think health.
Yeah, I think so.
We can check by typing health, and if we get, yep. Where is it? Update health. Yep. Okay. So that's all done. We will drag this into the actual group, and then I feel like there's something else I'm forgetting that I need to do, but I can't remember what that... Oh, yes. When it reaches the off screen to the left, it should be destroyed. Right? Otherwise, you'll end up with, like, if over the course of a level it spawned 100 of them, you'd have 100 of them eating up memory and performance. So we don't want that. So we're just going to simply do the heart item... compare X, and if its X is lower than, less than, and then we'll do the viewport, where is it? Viewport left, FG, and then we're going to do plus, because we've got those 54 pixels, we'll do like 36 pixels. 36. So it'll disappear very quickly once it's off screen visually. And then we're simply going to destroy it that way too.
Okay.
Right? So we are creating it at random. If it collides, it gives us hit points and destroys itself, or if it goes off the left-hand side of the visible part of the screen, it will also destroy itself. Theoretically. Let's see if I messed anything up. Oh, wrong layer. layout. Now let's see. There we go. Let's try that again. And so, it just went flying. So one was already created, but you see it's too high up. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I didn't program the super jump yet. Okay, so but everything's working. We just need to tweak that number, which is right here. So we're going to do something more like 66 or 76. We'll do 76. That might be too low, but it'll work to get the code working and test it. So now we need. Save my progress. Where is the controls for the player? There's the punch. Right now, I think, yeah, to make things simple right now, I'm just going to do a key press. So if you're not stuck in a move, and I'll just make it S for now. Okay, done. Now what we're going to do, you don't get stuck in your move. What you do, we're going to play the jump animation. Is it jump or jumping or what? Jump. Yep. Okay. And the most important thing is we are going to... Oh, the other thing I need to do is make sure we're on the ground. You cannot do a super jump while you're in the air already. So add another condition. Player box, platform controls, basically platform, is on floor. So you're not stuck in a move, you're on the floor. You press S, he goes into the jump animation, and the important thing is the vector Y. So we're going to set vector Y to a high negative number, and I have no idea how high it needs to be. We'll just guess and do 600. So now when I press the S key, he rockets off of the screen. Look how long it took him to land.
Wow.
I'm going to slow down the speed of the heart a bit. I'm going to make it less frequent.
Okay.
So right here, every 1 second, we're going to do every 3 seconds. And then we're going to do... we're going to slow down that heart, so that is in the spriter layer, layout. I keep mixing up those two words. Let's see, speed. So we'll cut that in half, 150, make it easier for us to catch. And I think its height seemed about right. It's just it was going too fast. Oh, and then the jump height was absurd. The vector Y. So. Let's see, we can do jump to narrow down on the thing, and so we'll cut that in half and see how that is.
Okay.
And I think if this works as it should, we will probably end the video here. Oh, you can catch it with the regular jump. We got to fix that. There we go. All right, so that's definitely closer. I want his maximum movement speed to be a tiny bit faster when you do the super jump. Like it's a little too floaty. But the big problem is right now with the regular jump, which is too high. I should have fixed that a long time ago. So the regular jump, he can jump too high. So that's here in the actual box that has the behavior. Jump strength, we got to make it something probably more like 140 or 150. Let's see how 140 feels. Once we're done with this little adjustment, then I think it's good to wrap it up for this video. That's a little too weak. Actually, since the gravity was floaty, I think the thing to do is increase the gravity by quite a bit and then bring this back up to something pretty high. So this adjusting phase of things can really take time. We're not going to make it absolutely perfect, but we need it at least good enough to test. All right, that's way too high for the full jump still, but it feels a lot better in its speed of ascension and descension, if those are words. Yeah, much better. But let's see, how high is that? That's perfect. The high jump is perfect. So it's just making this weaker. So how weak do we want to go? Jump strength 300, 200? Because 140 was way too weak before, and that was, let's see. That's pretty good, but I have a feeling we can connect with one of these hearts still. Let's find out. Get back here, you. Where's the heart? Okay. Oh no, good. You can't get it without. And we can make it a tiny bit higher. Let's see. Wait for another one. Oops! Damn it! I keep forgetting what button to press. There we go. Oh, I did it again. I press up to do the regular jump. It's because I'm used to black belt where it would be down and then up. There we go. All right, we'll look at it one more time. Yeah, let's make it like 5 pixels higher so that it's really obvious you need to do the super jump. So when it is spawned, so we'll do health. This is where you spawn it, right? Yes. So we'll do 71. That's 5 pixels higher. And I think we're good, except for I'm an old man that can't break habits I made like 20 years ago or more. Yeah, actually way more. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, and oh yeah, does it work? Yes, it replenishes your health. Awesome. Not that you can tell when you grab a note. Oh well, make it one last thing if you've got the energy for it. Thank you for your patience, viewers. What I will do is make it so that here is the collision. Here's where you collect it. So we're going to make it so if your health is already full, so we're gonna make sub events. Oh, okay, no problem. Delete that. Make that a sub event. And this is going to be, this is universal. Destroy it. That's universal. Update health is not necessarily universal. And okay, so I'm getting rid of this and I'm getting rid of these. Oops. So we're definitely always destroying it, but now the difference is we're going to say if health points, compare variable. My stomach is growling. I hope that's not picking up, the mic isn't picking that up. So hit points are less than 4. So it's only going to increase your health points if they're currently less than the max. And then we'll add another actually we'll do it this way. Add blank sub event, and then in this case, let's see, we'll do this up here, and we'll do greater than or greater than 3, which is the same as greater than or equal to 4. Greater than 3. Yes, so they're definitely full. Then we're not going to add to the hit points, we're going to add to the score. So we'll add, like, let's say arbitrarily 25 points to the score. Does that make sense? You fallen asleep?
No.
Okay. So score, let's see, score, add to, right? Yep, 25. So basically, if you grab a health pickup, but your health is already full, I feel like you should get some kind of reward for going out of your way to, grab it with the proper timing. So we'll just give you a little score boost. It makes sense to me. Oh, and then what do we have to do after we add to the score? Keeping you on your feet. Is it going to show up on screen now that we added to the score value, or do we need to do something?
Oh, you have to update the
do the function to update score. Correct.
Update the bash points.
Yes, exactly. Update score. Okay. So as soon as we see this is working, I think it'll be good to end the video there. Am I in the spriter layout? Like a doofus? No? Okay, excellent. So I have to remember that's how you grab the thing. There we go. Okay, so the score did, 25. And then now let me get my hit points back. There we go, that all works. So we are much closer to an actual game now. Next time, I think we'll add sound effects and maybe the death when your hit points are at 0. And if we're really up to it and have the time, then we'll make the game actually work with touch input or control pad or keyboard. So awesome, excellent progress. Thanks a lot for being part of the video and keeping it a little more lively. So with that, with that, we'll sign off. Thanks everyone for watching.